Well, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the Aussie Lawn. First of all, sorry about last week. It's just one of those things that happens. Got the trifecta, I guess. Bad weather, not enough time, and obviously work as well. So unfortunately from time to time that thing's going to happen. Anyway, doesn't matter about that. We're here again now. Okay, so here we are back on the front lawn project. Now, a fair bit's been happening here, and it does look a little bit like a bit of a dirty beach right now. So we've got our coarse river sand, and it is a lot coarser than what most of you would have been dealing with before. But as I said, some sort of limitations at the moment to availability, and I still think this will be quite an okay growing medium because we've got this nice sandy layer which will give us good filtration, or good drainage, good infiltration. In other words, it's going to help the water get down through into the nice firm ducts or beneath it, and hopefully that'll hold more of the nutrient stuff. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out once the turf goes down, but I'm confident this will be perfectly fine. And once again, it's what we've got to work with, so it is what it is. Now, I've got pretty much all the sprinklers in, except I kept one zone undone, just so I could show you guys the way I do it. Got one just here, you can see in the lawn, and or in the future lawn, and I'll show you the way I set those up. And we've got to connect, might not be in today's episode, but we've also got to connect up the valve box, all the solenoid valves, all that sort of stuff. I have concreted in earlier this morning. I've concreted in the post for the, I'm going to have a garden tap on that post, and probably another one of those Gardena hose reels, just because I don't have any front taps around that part of the house. So I thought, while I'm at it, I'll put one of those in. And I'm also going to put in a pressure gauge, just so I can see what my pressure is when all my system's running, and it'll give me an idea of how I can calculate exactly what's going out and that sort of thing. So just more of a special interest rather than a necessity, but it's just something that I wanted to do. Anyway, look guys, I'll give you a look around, and I'll talk you through what's been happening, and we'll crack on with a bit of installation of some sprinklers. Righto, so we've got all our nature strip sections all filled in with the sand now, and it's just been roughly leveled out. Actually, Dad did that earlier this morning, so thanks for that, Dad. And later on we'll sort of, I'm going to wet it down, just get it to sink down a little bit, and yeah, just try and get it as firm as we can. Got our sprinkler here in the middle. Basically, it's a strip sprinkler, so it'll pretty much cover this area nicely. And up the far corner, we've got a narrow corner sprinkler as well. So these areas are all sort of done the same, so they've all got a centre sprinkler, and in the smaller bits there'll be a left or a right, but I'll show you that as we go down. Okay, so here we've got two pipes. Well, this will be joined up anyway. So we've got our green stripe, which is our 1-inch rural class, and that'll drive all our sprinklers across the street. And this low density 19mm poly, we'll put a T section in here. We'll do a dripper loop around these trees, and that'll just give these trees a nice head start. And it'll also I'll probably put some gazanias in here, much the same as I've done on the other lawn, as I guess weed suppression and just something to beautify it a bit. So that's the second one there. So we've got a main line here for our sprinklers, a second main line which will branch out to our little loop of inline drippers, and that's what we're doing there. Okay, this angle here probably shows you a little bit more of how we're travelling and how far we've got to go. So far we've used through 40 tonne of the sand, and I've gone ahead and ordered another 40 more because I reckon we're going to be a fair way short, but we've still got a fair area to go. There may be some left over, there may not, but it won't matter. I'd rather have a little bit more than to have a little bit less, and being such a large project, that's why we're talking such big numbers. If things look a little bit different all of a sudden, that's because I had a really big stuff up. Yesterday when I was filming the video and I was doing all our installation and showing you guys all about the sprinklers and all that sort of stuff, talking away to the camera, went to edit last night, and guess what? Clown Pants here forgot to turn on the microphone. So I'm not going to dig up sprinklers just to reinstall them to talk you through it. I'll do the next best thing, so my apologies there. I was going to talk you through basically a few of the ways that I go about installing. I'll put a bit of the footage on in the background, but there's no point watching a Charlie Chaplin film. Okay, so where do we start? Start with our big sprinklers here, and these are the sprinklers that I'm going to use, or I have used, on the larger area here, so the main lawn. And these are a sprinkler by Hunter, and they're a PGP Ultra. Now, these guys date back to original sprinkler design called the G-type, and they were around for a long time. Very popular sprinkler, homes, councils, courses, all that sort of stuff. And really, really adjustable. And basically what you do, you get your sprinkler, it's complete like this. It comes with some nozzles here, and you just pick the size of the nozzle for the application. You get a big sheet with it, blah blah blah, and if you don't get the sheet, you can download it online. I've always found them to be quite a good value sprinkler, quite reliable, and I've just sort of gone with them because I'm a little bit old school like that. Now, I always recommend running any sort of sprinklers with these articulation joints. So basically what happens is, and here's the sprinkler here in the ground, so we yet really don't have an idea, well, it's somewhere here because I've measured it, but we don't really know what our final height will be by the time the sand comes in. But the beauty of one of these is we can actually set this sprinkler and we've got total adjustment. So if the sprinkler's too high, we can bring him down. If the sprinkler's too low, we can bring it up again. So these do restrict a little tiny bit of flow, but it's a small price to pay for flexibility. So later on, as years go by and you top dress and you have to elevate the sprinkler, you can lift it up a bit or you can drop it down, etc. So really, really handy sort of a gadget. It's better off, in my opinion, than simply just mounting a sprinkler straight on the bottom of your fitting, because a couple of things that are going to happen there. Number one, any weight that goes on this essentially can damage, because it's got no give, it's got no track, it's got nowhere to go, so you can damage, more likely to damage sprinklers that way. But obviously if you've got one of these joints, then it does give it some cushioning and a little bit of suspension, if you will, to avoid that sort of a damage. So they're the ones that I run. They're PGP Ultras by Hunter. And in our narrow areas, so out along the street, for example, I've chosen to run these Hunter Pro Spray bodies. Now these brown ones are pressure regulated, so they're pressure regulated to 30 psi, and these are the bodies that a lot of people run the MP rotors on, or the same sort of thing, maybe with or without the pressure regulation system. And you just basically choose the nozzle you want, and again, great, reliable, very simple design. It's just pressure pushes up the spigot, and she pops up and does its thing. So they're what's on the street, they're what's on the main lawn area. Now, as far as pipe choice and stuff goes, I probably like to do things, probably over-engineer things, but one thing I always do is I always run a 1-inch pipe when I'm doing irrigation such as this. I've got good pressure here, I'm pretty lucky, and I've also got good flow, so I'm lucky there too. But I also use these rural class fittings. It's rural class pipe. It is a little bit more expensive that way, but it's reliable, it's quick, and it's easy, and it all just screws together nice and snug. So we'll go into that a little bit later on when we talk about the valve box, because there's some things there that will become apparent later on in the video. This is probably an over-engineered design once again, but it's just sort of, I've got my reasons behind it. And look, I've actually chosen to have a shut-off valve, and I'll bring in the camera in a minute. A shut-off valve behind each of the 4 valves here. And the reason I've come up with that idea is because I'm not always here a great deal, in the sense that I'm always away working long hours and that sort of thing, so leaving the dark, getting home in the dark, that sort of thing. Now, if something goes wrong, I need to be able to know I can shut off an individual line and not affect the rest of my watering should it come to that. So I've chosen this, as I said, 4 valves, 4 solenoids, and they all run off to 4 different zones. So first one runs down and services all the things to do along the roadside. The second one services everything on this house side of the pathway. Then obviously the middle one services the middle row in the guts of the main lawn. And this one here, the last one, are our sprinklers along the back here. So that's what we do here. I've also got a shut-off valve here. Now the reason I've done that is, once again, over here on the pipe, we're going to be running a garden tap and a pressure valve and a few other things like that. And the reason I want the pressure valve there is just for curiosity rather than any sort of real necessity. But again, if something goes wrong, I want to be able to just isolate water here and still have other things in the yard running. I don't want to have a situation where I've got no water in the yard, it's hot, it's summer, whatever. So for the sake of a few extra valves, and me being a little bit pedantic and OCD at times, that's why I've chosen to build a system that way. And I do sort of find this stuff a bit like Meccano, so I like building this sort of stuff, and I like sort of playing around with it and doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, look, happy with the way this has come out. Got our valve box here, which will go installed on top of that. post has now been painted. I've got one coat of paint to put on that again, give it 2 coats, and unfortunately, as far as any further works happens this weekend, it's all on hold again, because once again we've got more rain coming. Apparently forecasting 20 to 40 millimeters. Yeah, so look, I've been totally jinxed with this project. This should have been finished in March and it's now June. So I was speaking earlier about having a bit of an overkill in the system here by having so many different taps. About 5 minutes ago I just did a quick pressure check, and I've sort of disconnected that again now because I need to run a tap up to this post. But before I do that, I'm going to prime it and paint it and stuff like that. But lo and behold, where is it? Right here, we've got a hole in the pipe. So got to now repair this pipe. I'm hoping that's the only one, because if anything's down there, then there it shall stay. But yeah, lucky find right there. Bit of a pain, but yeah, something we've got to fix. And I guess it'll give you guys a bit of an idea of how these little pipe fittings work. So every cloud has a silver lining. When you're dealing with any of these sort of bigger pipes, I recommend you just invest in a pair of these poly pipe cutters. So they've got a nice little holder here for the pipe, and it's more or less just a sharp blade, and slices through really well, gives a nice straight cut. So just going to cut pretty much on that tear, or on that hole, sorry, right there. Now the tricky bit of this now is actually just joining it. I'm going to have to trim a bit of this off, and it's going to be a little bit fiddly, but anyway, we'll get there. So it's worth pointing out something. If you're going to run anything from a main line to a valve, so a side that's going to hold pressure behind a valve or a tap, you should really be using a blue stripe, which is a metric class pipe. After that, if you want, you can use the green stripe rural class. It's obviously not as dense, and it doesn't have the same pressure rating, but anything this side of a valve or a tap is fine, but anything on the main side of the valve, stick to the blue stuff. Now the fittings will vary too, and the way I've come up to work it out is, I'll just grab this one here. So you've got 2 types of fittings depending on what pipe you're going to use, and the way I sort of remember them is the ones that have the barb sticking out, I refer to those out of town. So out of town rural, and the ones that are in is in town, so metric class. So that's how I sort of remember to tell them apart, or which ones are which. So and they sort of work in a different way. So as I said, so we're going to use the rural class, so the out of town, so it's got the protruding end. So we just unscrew it inside there, depending on the brand obviously. So you'll unscrew him and you'll have a little collar, and you'll have this bit here, and that there, the barbed end of that will go onto your pipe, and this obviously the smooth bit pushes back in there like so. Your collar, we'll do this all properly in a minute. Your collar goes around and you tighten him on, job done. So we'll just work this out. I'll undo this other section. Righto. So that's that there. Now we want to cut, this is the tricky bit, because you get it wrong and then it's more of a pain. So I reckon there's probably a better way to do this, and I don't know about it. So I reckon we'll cut 1 inch off and see how that goes. Righto, so that's probably not quite 1 inch. I'd rather take too little bit off. So slide, make sure you're always putting your nut, that big on first. So that goes on there like that. Push him down. Probably easier. Pull him off. Put that on like so, and you can give it a tap with a rubber mallet. Righto, so that's on there. That comes up like that. That goes on like so. tighten him on. That's it. So all we got to do now is do this other side and hope it all lines up. So same story again. Make sure you put that bit on there first. Put your little locking sleeve or whatever you call him on next. Take that bit out. So once again, barb side goes on the pipe. A little bit of a tap on there. Find something firm. He goes on like that. And that hopefully will be the right length. Okay, so I'll just fill in the rest of the trenches now with as much dirt as I can. We'll save this area, we'll leave this still open. We've still got a bit of work to do over here, but as I said, we'll fill these trenches in as much as we can. Right guys, we'll wrap the video up here. As I said, there's not going to be too much happening here for the next couple of weeks. Scott's got a heap of other work on, so I'll probably have a little bit of leveling and a little bit of adjusting and playing around with the sand that I've got. So it's probably going to be another 4 or 5 weeks until he can get back to do some more with me. So again, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not locking out a turf now anyway, so you know, let it sort of take its course and do it properly. Obviously every time I try to do something here, something goes wrong, but that's life. Anyway guys, have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, please, after all this debacle, please feel free to like if you like the episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Have a great weekend. We'll see you here next time on the Aussie Lawn. Well, once again, overnight we got some really heavy rain. We had 21 mils of rain overnight, and it did cause a little bit of washout. So what I'll probably do this morning is just fix it up, and then this weekend I'll probably end up putting a bit of ryegrass seed down on those completed street areas just to stabilise the sand and stop that from happening again.